Okay, it's 9:15. This is Mr. Combs. Um, and today we want to talk about Unit 3 voting methods, um, board account method of voting. And so I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm recording this. If somebody logs on, no one's logged on at the moment, but if somebody does, then I may acknowledge them and say, hey, but other than that, let's get started. I don't know if we'll take the entire time today, but maybe. I don't know. Who knows? All right, so let's talk about the next type of voting method. Um, oh yeah, and before we get done talking, or start, sorry, before we start talking about the next type of voting method, I want to say that I will be broadcasting from Wolfe County on Wednesday. I'm going to go to Wolfe County and check everything out, and then the next time I come to school, it will be to Lee County. So we'll still have a Blackboard shell. I'm sorry, a Blackboard Collaborate session. We always have a Blackboard shell, but anyway, we'll still have a Blackboard Collaborate session. It's just I'll be in Wolfe County. We'll see how that goes. Now, we've had trouble in the past, so just bear with me in case we have trouble again. But anyway, let's take a look at this this session's voting method that we're going to talk about. It's the board account method. So another method for voting is the board account method. It's named for the 18th century French mathematician and naval engineer Jean-Charles de Borda, who devised the system in 1770. So this is a system that's sort of been around for a little bit. It's currently used quite a bit throughout the world. It said it's used in government elections in Nauru and Slovenia. In modified forms, it's used to determine which candidates are elected to the party list seats in Icelandic parliamentary elections, and for selecting presidential election candidates in Kiribati. And that is a little-known country. I didn't even know it existed until I did some research about the board account method. And yes, for some reason, the TI is pronounced with an S sound. So it's Kiribati, according to YouTube. But anyway, it's also used, something that we're more familiar with, it's also used to select the MLB MVP, the winner of the Heisman Trophy, and to rank NCAA college teams. So this is the board account method. When you use the board account method, points are assigned to candidates based on their ranking. So any candidate that was ranked last gets 1 point. If you're ranked second to last, you get 2 points. If you're ranked third to last, you get 3 points, and so on. So, excuse me, I don't know why I'm yawning. So the number of points that the person who is ranked first gets depends on how many candidates there are in the election. So then after everyone is assigned points and the ballots are totaled, the candidate with the largest point total is the winner. So let's consider this situation, and this, I just made this one up. So it says the Legion of Doom. Does anybody remember the Legion of Doom? When I was a boy in the 80s, there was a cartoon called the Super Friends, where like all the DC superheroes sort of got together and they lived in the Hall of Justice. I think maybe some of you may remember the Justice League, which was a more recent cartoon that was actually pretty good. So the Super Friends was kind of like cheesy, but I liked it. But anyway, so they had the Legion of Doom, which was the group of supervillains. All right, so the Legion of Doom, that infamous group of DC Universe supervillains, and by the way, the Legion of Doom was created for the Super Friends cartoon, but it has since become part of the comics and the general DC mythos as well, I guess, or the DC universe, if you want to call it that. So they're electing a new leader after the retirement of Lex Luthor. So Lex Luthor was the head of the Legion of Doom. He's going to retire, and now they need to elect a new leader. Gorilla Grodd, Brainiac, and the Cheetah have all expressed interest in leading the Legion. A vote was taken. The preference schedule is, and here I have the preference schedule. So notice there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there were 12 people voted, right? So we had 12 voters. And that makes sense to me because there were 13 members of the Legion of Doom. And if Lex Luthor is leaving or has left, then there are only 12 votes. All right? So here's Gorilla Grodd. Here's Brainiac and Cheetah. So anyway, just in case you're not familiar with those characters. All right. So let's decide who is the winner based on the board account method. Okay? So, since there are 3 candidates, each candidate gets 3 points for each first place vote he or she received, 2 points for each second place vote, and 1 point for each third place vote. So the results can easily be expressed in a chart. And so I've done Grodd for us. We'll do Cheetah and Brainiac. Alright, so if you refer back to the preference schedule, you'll notice that, so first of all, in this chart, Grodd gets 3 points for first place, 2 points for all of his second choice votes, and 1 point for all of his third place votes. So if you look back at the preference schedule, you'll notice that there were 2 votes or 2 voters who wanted Gorilla Grodd as their first choice, or who indicated him as their first choice. So let's go back and look at the table. So this voter right here wanted Grodd as the first choice, and this voter here wanted Grodd as the first choice. So 1 plus 1 is 2, so there were 2 votes. Alright, also notice there were 3 votes where Grodd was the second choice. So here Grodd was the second choice. There are 3 voters. So we're going to multiply 2 times 3 in this case. And then there were 7 voters who wanted Grodd as their last choice or third choice. And because that's 4 plus 3. So that's where we get 2 votes times 3 points. That's going to give us 6. 3 votes times 2 points. That's also going to give us 6. And 7 votes times 1 point. That's going to give us 7. And when I add 6, 6, and 7 up, I get 19. So Grodd has 19 total points. All right, let's look at Cheetah. Okay, so if we go back to the preference schedule, and now that I'm working with this, I probably should have put the preference schedule and our chart on the same page. I'm sorry about that. All right, so Cheetah was in first place for 3 votes, in second place for 5 votes, 4 plus 1, And in third place for 4 votes, 1 plus 3. So when I go back to my chart, I'm going to say Cheetah got 3 votes so I'm going to multiply that by 3 points. So 3 votes, 3 points. That equals 9. So the total points, I'm going to start with 9. I'm going to add to that. All right. So now, what do we say? She had 5 votes for second place. So that's going to be 5 votes times 2 points. So that's going to give me 10. So 10 points. And then she had 4 votes for last place. And 4 times 1 is 4. So 9 plus 10 plus 4 is 23. So Cheetah has 23. So right now Cheetah is in the lead, right? Because Grodd only has 19. All right. So let's look at Brainiac. Now I'll erase all of my work if I go back. So I'm just going to do Brainiac from memory. If you recall, or if if you've printed off your sheet and can look back, Brainiac had 7 votes where he was considered the first choice. So 7 votes times 3 points. That's 21. So already he's beat Grodd, right? He had 4 votes where he was considered second choice. So 4 times 2 is 8. So let's see, 21 plus 8. And he had 1 vote where he was considered last place. So 1 times 1 is 1, of course, and I'm going to add 1. So when I add all these up, 21, 8, and 1, I get 30. So who is the winner using the board account method? Well, it's it's not Gorilla Grodd. He's not the winner at all. It's Brainiac. So Brainiac. All right, excellent. Let's look at another situation. It says, consider this situation. Reader's Digest magazine conducted a poll to determine the most popular Stephen King novel. They sent readers a preference ballot, and here is the preference ballot. So they sent readers a preference ballot listing the top 4 King novels in terms of sales. So these are the top 4 novels from Stephen King that have sold the most. Sold the most copies, right? And ask the people, so they asked the readers to rank the books. You know, your favorite is 1 and your least favorite is 4. So when they tallied up the results, they got the following preference schedule. So there were 51 people who ranked the choices as Shining, Stand, Misery, and It. 25 who ranked the choices as Stand, It, Misery, Shining. 10 who ranked the choices It, The Stand, Misery, and Shining. And 14 who ranked the choices: Misery, The Stand, It, The Shining. So it says use the Borda count method to determine the most popular King novel. Okay, there are 4 candidates, so each candidate will be given 4 points for each first place vote, 3 points for each second place vote, and so on. So 4, 3, 2, 1. So let's look at these. Let's look at The Shining first. So The Shining was listed first choice only in one column, but it had 51 voters. So there are 51 votes, and we're going to multiply that by 4 points. So 51 votes by 4 points is 204. All right, The Shining was not listed. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm yawning. Please forgive me. The Shining was not listed in second place at all. So 0 times 3 points. So that's just 0. Third choice. The Shining was not listed as third choice as well. So 0 times 2 points. That's just 0. And The Shining was listed in fourth place by 25, 10, and 14 people. So 25 and 10 is 35, and 35 and 14 is 49. So 49 times 1. 49 voters times 1 point is 49. And when I multiply 204 plus, I'm sorry, not multiply, but add, when I add 204 plus 49, what do I get? 253. So the total points that The Shining gets is 253. All right, let's do the same thing with The Stand. So The Stand is considered first choice by 25 people. And 25 times 4 is 100. So we're going to start out with 100. I keep hearing something outside my door, but it might just be, I don't know, building noises. All right, so let's look at the second choice. So The Stand was considered the second choice by 51, 10, and 14. So 51 and 14 is 65, plus 10 is 75. So 75 times 3 points. That's going to give me 225. So 100 plus 225. So The Stand was not listed in third choice ever, and it was not listed in fourth choice. So both of these are 0. So 0 times 2 and 0 times 1. So 100 plus 225 is 325. So The Stand gets 325 points. So let's do the same thing with It and Misery. So It was considered first by 10 voters. So that's 10 . times 4, or 40. So 40 plus. All right, it was considered second choice by 25 voters. So 25 times 3. $75, so 40 plus 75, plus it was considered third choice by 51 voters, so that's 51 . Oh, wait a minute. No, that's fourth choice. So it was considered third choice by 14 voters. Uh-oh. Let's get rid of that. So 14 voters. So 14 times 2 is 28. And then it was considered fourth choice by 51 voters. So 51 times 1 is 51. So let's add up 40 plus 75 plus 28 plus 51. And when I do that, 40 plus 75 plus 28 plus 51, I get 194. All right, finally, let's look at misery. So misery was considered first place by 14 people. So 14 times 4 is 56. It was considered second place by no one, so that's 0 times 3. It was considered third choice by 51 plus 25 plus 10 people, so 86 people. And 86 times 2 is 172. So 56 plus 172. And then it was not considered the fourth choice by anyone. So 0 times 1 is 0. And I have 56 plus 172. So 56 plus 172. That gives me 228. Okay. 253, 325, 194, 228. Which one of these is the winner? It's The Stand. So, the most popular Stephen King novel selected using the board account method is The Stand. All right, so there are two examples using the board account method, and as you can see, if you don't have a ranking for a certain choice, or if a certain candidate doesn't have, is not chosen to be a certain rank, then you just put in 0. So, I mean, this looks good. I mean, really, if you think about it, I mean, The Stand was very popular, right? so it makes sense that it should win. All right, but let's think about this a little bit more deeply. It says you may have noticed by looking at the preference schedule there were 100 voters. So remember, the preference schedule said that there were 51 plus 25 plus 10 plus 14 voters. That adds up to be 100. So The Shining received a majority of the first place votes. So 51 people, if you remember, voted for The Shining as first place. So this is a majority of the votes, since if there are 100 people, we divide by 2 and add 1. So 100 divided by 2 is 50, and 50 plus 1 is 51. So The Shining received a majority of the votes. More people wanted The Shining first. But even though the majority of voters ranked The Shining as their first choice, The Stand was declared the winner using the Borda count method. So this use of Borda's method violates another fairness criterion. We're talking about the fairness criterion. We've talked about before monotonicity and the Condorcet criteria, I guess, since there's 2 of them. But now we're going to add another one, the majority criterion. And the majority criterion states that if a candidate has a majority of the first place votes, that candidate should be the winner. That's not the case in this election, so we say that this use of the Borda count method has violated the majority criterion. So the Borda count method is sometimes described as consensus-based voting. Since it can sometimes choose a more broadly acceptable option over the one with the majority of support. So in the example above with Stephen King's novels, The Stand is probably the most popular novel because it probably really is the most popular novel, because it ranked higher than The Shining in 3 of the 4 rankings, and in the ranking where The Shining is first choice, The Stand ranked second. So this is a different approach than here I go again. This is a different approach than plurality, which considers only voters' first choices. And even though instant runoff uses the entire preference ballot and the entire preference schedule to sort of help eliminate voters, we're still just focusing on first choice votes with instant runoff voting. So the Borda count method is really the first that we have encountered that considers every voter's entire ranking to determine the outcome. All right, and I didn't think that there's a picture of Stephen King for you, a caricature. I didn't think that we would need the whole time today, and we don't. So that's all that I have for you today. I'm still working on grading tests, and I'll have those graded pretty soon. Next time in class, we'll finish up voting, and then it'll be ready for another test. I don't know how this one's going to go. There's not a lot of material to cover, but I mean, there's enough. But anyway, more information about that later. So we look at the next homework, and then also take a look at the course outline if you are confused about what to do next or what to do and when. And next, remember, on Wednesday, I will be back on Blackboard Collaborate, but I will be broadcasting from Wolfe County High School. All right, I'll see you all later.